What's up, guys? It's the newest edition of the DC Defender Show. It's a victory episode. It's the first time we've got to do one of these. I'm with my man, Alex, straight from the nation's capital. How are you, Alex?
Doing great, buddy. You know what to do. Hit the music.
Victory episode. Not many people. If you look at the procrastinator or the procrastinator, I can't even you know what I'm talking about.
Protagonist.
The critics. We're gonna go with the critics. You know, you had people all throughout the United Football media saying DC is overrated. In fact, one of the Houston Roughnecks representatives actually tagged their show, DC is the worst team in the UFL after 1 week. And everyone like jumped the gun. You know, you went 9-1 last year to the championship and you lose one game on some questionable calls and one terrible player. Really? Like a bad day for that one player, right? And people are thinking it's over for the DC Defenders. But you were there and you're happy to report it's a victory episode.
Opened the blinds this morning. The sun seemed a little brighter. Poured my coffee. It tasted a little stronger, a little hotter. The water pressure in the shower seemed a little stronger. Nothing like a win to get things going, buddy. I tell you, it's been a great Monday. I can't stop smiling. What a fun game. What a big win.
Oh, I thought that smile was because the eclipse was going over your house. Did you see the eclipse?
Saw that too. Yeah, we saw that too. That's for sure. Right. But yeah, it was an unbelievable day. I mean, the weather was great. That's a heck of a setup down there. It was an exciting game, man. I mean, fans really got their money's worth. That thing was back and forth, and came down to the final play, and we made the play when we had to. So big win.
Alex obviously was got to see the DC Lemon guy, a friend of the show. Alex, did you have to sign any autographs while you're down there? You know, you're the talking head of the Defenders.
No, I really didn't. Had a chance to hit Solus Bottom. Great setup down there. We'll hit Walters next time. I hear that's the place to be. But no, I really didn't. I ran into Lemon Guy when I first walked into the stadium. He was there with his crew, and they put on a real show there. It's the whole setup is fantastic, and no bad seats really. The soccer stadium's really tight. It just gives a very different atmosphere. So, I mean, you can see why it is such a home field advantage. And, crowd trickled in a little bit later. But by early to midway in the first, it was full. It was loud, great crowd. And you could tell the team really fed off of that too. A couple of those false start penalties in that last drive, it was loud. And I think it was a combination of Houston being jumpy and then the crowd noise getting folks to getting them to jump. So it's nice when the crowd can help impact the game that way.
Yeah, they talked about all week. DC is all time. They've never lost in Audi Field, and that includes 2020. That includes last year and includes this year. Yeah. The atmosphere. The only complaint I have about the whole is that you share it with the soccer field, and the end zones blend in with the rest of the field on TV. It might not be that way in person. Yeah. Well, on TV, the end zone sometimes blends in with the rest of the field. I'm nitpicking here. I know it's a spring league football. They don't have their own stadium. I get why it's not there, but it would be nice to see that Defender red right there.
It would. It is an intimate place. The sight lines are good. I was up around the 42, 43 yard line, right behind where the cameras were for the game. Couldn't have gotten a better vantage point. It was great. You could see everything develop. Just fantastic setup they have there. My only complaint would be, if you're cheap like me and you don't feel like getting drunk at a game, it's a great place to go because it's $14.95 a beer. So, if you're drinking on a budget, you don't have to worry about getting sloshed at the game. So I guess that's a way to turn something negative into a positive, right?
Yeah. And while you say that, that just makes the beer snake so much more impressive. It just makes $15 a beer. You do the math.
I think it's funny to watch though, because it starts, right down by the trash can, and you can see a section of it, and then another section. And I'm looking at it, about midway through the first quarter. You're like, there's no way in hell they're going to make it up there. And you look up there in the third quarter and it's almost to the top. And by the fourth quarter, it's hit the fence and started to turn. What an incredible, and they get so loud down there. Like where I was too, you could really feel like on big plays, you kind of hear that roar coming out of the end zone. And it's impressive. It really is.
That's awesome. I don't know if you follow Beer Snake Defender on Twitter, and he actually he's the guy that holds it at the bottom, right? ESPN showed it. He's the guy that's holding it at the bottom. And he went to the Caps and he went to the Nationals, and then he ended his day at the Defenders. And he said he would never do it again. He publicly said that, but he also went to sleep, or at least he filmed it like he was going to sleep with a portion of the beer.
Well, he earned it. I saw him down there. Yeah, he's kind of the foundation which they build it upon, and it is really neat. It's great. And then I parked again, being cheap. I wasn't going to pay $50 to park at the stadium. I paid $20 to have the right to walk 1.5 miles to the stadium. So I got some steps in and saved some money too. But walking in, you see these people getting off. It's like you're not really sure, and then you walk a little bit closer and you see some more red. And by the time you hit the train station where people get off the metro, it was a nice flood of people going over to the stadium. And then, like I said, they have some really nice places to hang out before the game. It could really be, and it is super special, but it shows me spring football can work. And it is something to being back in the community and playing in a home stadium where you can create those traditions. It is special. It really is.
Yeah. So obviously 3 things. Number 1 was Rowdy Audi. We've talked about it. The thing that I picked up from watching from South Georgia is that the team seemed to rally around the crowd, and it seemed like they figured it out. And like when Momo blocks that punt in the first quarter, like that place erupts. When DeAndre Baker chases down Merritt, that place erupts, and it comes across on the TV. Like you can watch the Memphis games and it doesn't really get loud. You can watch the Michigan games and it peaks a little bit. Same thing with Birmingham. But when you watch St. Louis and San Antonio and DC, it really comes through the TV.
Yeah. It feels very much, like a college crowd too. Like, some of these college places you play, they know when to get loud on third down, and they kind of pace along with the game. And it felt very much like that a couple of times, especially on big plays, that you don't have to tell people to get excited. But great fan base, great venue, money well spent. Highly recommended.
That's awesome. And DC evened up the USFL XFL battle. Now it's 2-2 because of DC.
They did.
Number 2, offensive balance. A little bit behind the curtain here. After you got off, you left the game, we talked on the phone. And this was the first thing that you basically said, was that the offensive balance was there for you didn't know the numbers because you didn't have the stats in front of you, but you just felt like there was a balance there. Speak to a little bit about that as a coach.
Yeah, no, you could feel, we kind of agreed that we went away from the run game a little bit early against San Antonio. And this week, they even came out on the first possession, and even though they didn't get convert a first down, they tried to establish the run, and they ran the ball and they showed it just enough. And then we broke a couple of runs in there. But then, once we hit a couple of those runs, it opened up the pass game a little bit. It opened up some of the RPO action like we talked about. But, it's that balance where you're not so one-dimensional. And we both talked about it. And I remember I asked you, how many rushes did we have? And when you told me it was 26 against, 32 passes, I was like, that's pretty good right there. Still got to work out some things in the running game, get that average rush per carry up, maybe not have so many plays where we're getting tackled behind the line of scrimmage. That'll come, though. That'll come. This was a big improvement this week.
Yeah, definitely. The offensive line protected against one of the better defensive line groups. Tiamu was like, that defensive line is a beast. And then you got Reuben Foster. Like they're big boys. And you didn't hear Toby Johnson's name coming over the TV. You didn't hear about Olive. You see Olive five yards down the field because you're chasing the running back. Reuben Foster had a great first quarter before he got a little banged up. But Bingham, like they got to Tiamu, but it did not feel like San Antonio, where it just seemed like Tiamu was just under pressure the entire time. So the offensive line definitely improved the most from week 1 to week 2.
Yeah, and you really on TV. I don't know if you can. We know Ruben. You've seen him in practice when you used to cover the Maulers, and we've seen him in person. But my God, he's so fast in person. A couple of times he just, he'll read it and he hits it. And when he goes, I mean, man, that guy's an athlete. He is so good. But yeah, much faster in person than on TV.
Well, the funny thing about Ruben is when you see him on TV and they give you the close-up shots of his face, he's always smiling, talking to the guy. Mm-hmm. Like him and Tiamu were like high-fiving in the middle of the game, and like it was just like it was really cool because he's the meanest hitter in the league, and as soon as he hits you, hey, guess what? He's gonna be okay, and all right, let's go next play. So definitely a good player to have in the league. But to go back to the offensive balance, the red zone execution, 3 out of 4. They didn't score touchdowns in San Antonio. They were able to punch it in. It might not have been the most prettiest. And the only time they didn't score in the red zone was that opening drive where Tiamu throws a pick six.
Right.
So outside of that first drive where you might not be in your groove yet and all that, they were perfect if they got into the red zone, which is a completely different story than what happened in San Antonio.
Yeah, no question about it. No question about it. Yeah, that throw was just, it got away from him. He missed him. The pick six, he stepped up. Cam was open and just missed him, and it tipped off his finger. And next thing you know, they're going the other way. And it happens. That's part of football. But one other thing too, I'd like to point out before I forget was we talked a little bit, or I'd mentioned about establishing the run, and we had Ellis and Moore on the field a lot. I said I like the 2 tight ends, and we played a lot of 2 tight ends together, trying to establish the run game. But those guys are versatile enough where just because you have 2 tight ends doesn't mean, hey, here it comes and pound. We can still run and run our passing stuff out of that. But I thought we made a commitment to the run, and I think that helped us tremendously. And then to your point, the conversions in the red zone, other than the one errant throw, we were pretty efficient in the red zone. It was nice to see Darius Higgins hit it in there and get a touchdown for us, and he ran very hard. Cam had some nice runs. Even though the stats weren't glaringly better than week 1 offensively, it felt better. It felt more efficient. Yeah. And that front from Houston's good now. That's no rinky-dink front. I mean, beating those guys was a tall order.
Definitely. And then the last point about the offense, 8 different pass catchers. Mm-hmm. You got a little roster here, right? 8 different pass catchers. There's only one guy in offensive weapon, if you count the tight ends, running backs, and wide receivers that didn't have a catch, and that was Brandon Smith. And he was targeted 3 times.
Yeah.
4 different rushers. Even Kuti got a rush, and then obviously Tiamu, Higgins, and Cameron Harris. They are spreading out the ball, and we'll talk about it when we get to the player of the week. There was no outstanding player. It was the team effort, and especially on the offensive side of the ball, it was little guy like Chris Rowland, right? Chris Rowland didn't have a catch, and then all of a sudden he's breaking down the field, and Mighty Mouse is down 40 yards down the field.
Yeah. So. Yeah. What did you think of Kiki Kute? 9 targets yesterday.
Yeah, I think he only had 3 or 4 catches, though.
Yeah. But that tells me Jordan's getting comfortable with him because he's looking for him. I mean, 9 targets.
Yep. Yeah, he's definitely his security blanket outside of the tight ends. I would pick up. I feel like when you're running that double tight end, and if both tight ends are out there, or if one only runs and one stays back and block, he's looking. That's his safety. And I know we could talk about it because you hate it, but when Tiamu rolls right and throws back to Ellis on the left after Ellis just got it was a 4th down. But it's a security blanket. Like he looked real quick on the right-hand side. It wasn't there. He was comfortable going across the field, going to Alex Ellis. And I know it's designed like that, but it still says a lot that he's okay throwing it to Ellis, because Ellis had 8 catches last year. We talked about it in the preseason, 4 touchdowns. So obviously there's some comfortable aspects to that relationship. So
yeah, they set that play up beautifully. When they started that 4th down may have been the play of the game. I know it's not the one we chose, but that could have been the play of the game because we had them, and Houston's coaches called the timeout to set up their defense, and that was got to tip the cap to Coach Keiss and those guys, because I'm gonna tell you what, they'd been running that little half rollout. When he started sprinting out, I was like, what the hell are we doing? Because I hate it because it hasn't been that effective. And then when he threw that screen back, I was like, they've been setting up that damn screen for 2 games. And when he caught it, it was like, holy cow, they blocked it very well. That was a huge play in the game. So great call.
The third thing, the D paces the defenders. This defense is dynamic. I really believe that. I'm gonna let you go first on this one. I'm a defensive guy out of the two of us. You're more of an offensive guy, but you said some things that you don't see on TV that actually really stood out to me. So I'll let you go first.
Yeah, sure. I was just blown away at the level of the frequency of the rotations that with Coach Williams, especially in the second half. Now he was literally that last drive. They were running the interior 2 guys off and then swapping out and on, switching the edge rushers every snap or 2. I mean, there was this constant wheel of the guys in the front 7 subbing out. And they subbed out a lot during the game too. You'd look in, you'd look at one possession and they might have, Baker and Conley out there. The next possession, it's, Kelly and Conley. They really did a great job of keeping guys fresh. So, with this team, really, they have starters on paper that they put out for the media stuff. But everybody's getting plenty of snaps. There's a lot to go around. I was blown away with and again, when you're watching on TV, they'll run the play and then they'll, swap out and let you see the replay. And then you look back in, it's hard to see, did they sub or not? But at the game, boy, that you could just see it was a constant back and forth, getting fresh bodies in there. Not just in the fourth where you had to get pressure. I mean, during the game, there was frequent substituting up front, big time.
Secondary growth, I thought coming through the TV, and you might be able to speak to it a little bit more. It seemed like the secondary was more confident this week.
Yeah.
They were left on a lot of islands still with of course the blitz packages that Greg Williams sends, but it seems like Baker, Conley, them being part of it and that growth right there, and they're super talented, and it just seems like they're getting a little bit more comfortable with being left out there. They might not have played that system while they're in the pros or at college, and it just seems like Santos Ramirez, I think he only had 3 tackles, but I can remember every single tackle. Like the whole secondary just seemed like it just kept getting better and better and better. Yeah. And this is a scary secondary going forward.
No question. Conley and Baker, difference makers, big time. Won't go on from what that you had said because you nailed it. But Conley and Baker both healthy, playing the amount of snaps that they played yesterday. Kelly, Joseph, very good back there. Saw a lot of Deontay Anderson as well back there with Swearinger. But Conley and Baker, difference makers, period.
When Baker chases down Merritt, or he doesn't necessarily chase him down, he just doesn't give up on the play, and Merritt has to kind of wiggle through the other defensive backs that are back there, and he comes down and grabs it knocks out that fumble. Like that was the ball game, really. Like that saved the game for him, and they just have dudes back there that just are like dogs, man. They're just tough guys in that secondary, every single one of them. And we'll get to it when you get to your player of the week. And then defense creates opportunities. I think this defense is putting the offenses in a lot of good situations. Yeah. With even the field position. Outside of that one drive with Reed Sinnett, where in the second half, was there a time where you're like, oh, I don't know about this defense? You were there.
No, they might have hit a play every now and then, but you felt like the defense was in control. You really they seem to control the game. Even on that last drive, we end up punting out of the end zone. You're in tight protection, punting out of the end zone, so they're going to get a good return, and they did. I think they got the ball down to about our 28-yard line on that last drive, but you just felt like they were still going to have a hard time scoring on that defense. And then that's a good place to be, right? Yeah, did a great job yesterday.
Before we go to the next thing, I'm going to throw you off here. Question of the week. What unit would you say, if we're going defensive line, linebackers, whatever, where we need the most growth to take it to the next level. And let's say the Stallions are the gold standard right now to get up to the because I feel like DC right now in the power rankings, I think we're 4th, which we were 7th last week, and the week before we were 3rd, and the middle of the pack is really tight. But I don't think anyone disagrees outside of some Brahma fans that the Stallions are the gold standard right now. Brahmas might be getting closer, but they're not there yet. What unit or what aspect of the game, put your coaching hat on, do you think needs the most improvement to get to that level? Because we got the Stallions in 2 weeks.
Offense or defense?
Your pick, coach.
Offensive line. I still think the offensive line is a work in progress. I think that, while we committed to the run and we ran the ball better, more times than not, there still wasn't a ton of push. A couple of times there'd be a seam. I saw, and this is Reuben Foster, of course, but, Reuben would come late. We looked like we might have it blocked. There'd be a little seam, and Reuben would come in and knock us down for a 2 or 3 yard loss. I think the offensive line will continue to get better because, like we know in these spring leagues, the offensive lines usually lag behind a bit, and then they get better as the season goes on. We saw it with Pittsburgh last year, and we lost 2 of our starters from last year, but they protected pretty well yesterday for the most part. So there was improvement, and we ran the ball. Again, it wasn't light years better than week 1, but it was still better, and we made a commitment to it. But I'd say offensive line.
Yeah, definitely. And you got to remember, we actually have a different starter than we did last week, right? Because DeLance was the starter, and Jameer Jones, right? Ross Johnson from the Stallions. He's only been there for 3 weeks, and now he's the starter. And the line, the passing block. I know PFF's not the end all be all with offensive lines, but it's tough to get offensive line stats, right? And they rank them as a 39.8 as a unit in week 1. When the grades come out, I'll report it. I'll put on my Twitter of where it is. When we're recording, it's not out yet, but I'm going to tell you it's better than 39.8
right
this week. And as long as that number continues to rise, I'm okay with it because I think we have enough talent everywhere else.
Yeah, we didn't spit on anybody either. What would you say is the unit that needs the most work?
It's the linebackers. For some reason I was and I'm not there. I don't know exactly what I don't have the all 22 film, but it always seems like Bernard is chasing someone. Or not like they're in good position already. It always seems like he's a second too late. And I'm not saying it's his. I don't know enough about that defense to say that if it's his fault or not, but it always seems like the linebackers, that little zone that's before the safeties and just that little area right behind the defensive line, I always feel like there's a weakness right there. And that might be by design for the defense. Who knows? Who knows with Greg Williams, and they're always blitzing him, so who knows? On guard.
Damn, that's scary.
Yeah, well, it's the
that music and the sword and that look on the face. It's like, what did I do?
My player of the game is Darius Higgins. 11 carries, 29 yards, touchdown, 2 receptions, 11 yards. He returned kicks. I put on their mindset difference. I just think he was rushing hard. He was hitting. His numbers don't blow you away, right? He's not even 3 yards per carry. Like he's 5 yards per reception, right? Like his kick returns on one kick is only 20 yards, which is really not that much in this league. We're going to talk about the Renegades kick return, and that guy is explosive. But it was just a mindset that all of a sudden this team was like, you know what, let's go. It just came across on the TV, and it might have been, you're in Rowdy Audi, but it just seemed like when they gave Darius a couple of carries in a row, I know Cameron got the early snaps. It just seemed like, hey, we're going to punch in the face before we get punched. And and that first touchdown in the whole year, like you got to give it to him. Like being a Maulers fan last year, and they went through the 3 games without a touchdown. And then when they announced, I was kind of like, what am I doing? Like, am I the curse here? But when he got that touchdown, the announcer's like, their first touchdown of the year. I just felt like it was a step in the right direction. And
Yeah.
me and you've been talking about Darius Higgins since they signed him, that this is a guy that, hey, he's got some Barlow familiarity. Barlow recruited him, so he's a Barlow type of kid, right?
Yeah.
And as long as he could figure out the playbook, he would go well, we thought, with Abram Smith at the time. But now him and Cam can be the running backs for this team and split carries. And maybe they don't have fancy yards stats like Abram, but as long as they're effective and they're setting a tone and the balance remains because they're being somewhat effective, I'll take it.
Agreed. I can't argue with this. This shows you know football, because you're right. He ran hard. There was a different attitude, I think, when he ran the ball. I like how he finished his runs. Saw a lot of really positive things out of him, and this was his first game, right? I thought that Cam made some nice runs too, but I certainly can't argue with this pick. This is a solid pick here.
Well, I can't argue. Of course, why do I always pick the offensive guys and you pick the defensive guys?
Because you let me pick first.
I'll let you pick first next time. Michael Joseph. Well, you were on the road. We had to get our player of the week for the UFM, and we had to get him in last night. And I'm like, Alex in the car. I'm not going to bother him. I already rattled off his ear. I guess you needed someone to talk to on your drive home. But
absolutely.
But talk about Michael Joseph.
Really played well. Played a lot of nickel. Again, we saw more now that Baker's healthy. We saw a lot of Baker and Conley on the corners with Kelly, and you see Joseph in there, playing against slot receivers often, but he was in and around the ball. A couple of these tackles, if you go back, I was looking at a little bit of film today, and he made a couple of tackles yesterday short of the sticks. So, putting them in a 4th and 2 or 4th and 1. Very sure tackler, played very well, always around the ball, had a high number of tackles in game 1, had a high number of tackles led the team in tackles in game 2, I believe. So outstanding, Mr. Joseph. Keep it up.
Yeah, and of course you called he was going to be player of the game. So
when I get the pick,
you, Coach,
player of the game, and then I'm the sole vote on who is the player of the game for my pick, that was kind of a stacked deck there, right?
Yeah. Web stat of the game: third down efficiency. They are so amazing at this so far this year. Now everyone will say, "Well, Houston's offense is not that good." The Nets still had over 200 yards passing. All right, San Antonio's offense not that good. Chase Garbers might be the best quarterback so far in the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yep.
Statistically, they were able to. They're at 19% right now, 4 of 21. This defense dials it up in third down. Third is short, third and long. It doesn't make a difference. Greg's going to get to the quarterback and put pressure on the quarterback or the offensive line. He's going to put pressure on the offensive line. And if this trend continues, this defense is going to be something special at the end of the year where you're going to be like, hey, spring league defenses, this could be one of the better ones of all time. So, and they've got all the talent in the world. We talked about the corners, and they keep advancing. Deontay Anderson, he put up an all XFL season last year in Vegas. Now he's got Swearinger, who's been in the NFL for a decade. And then, then you have these first round draft picks. He's playing with some talent now, and for him to fit in, and it just seems like everything's clicking with us.
Agreed. Anderson got a lot of snaps yesterday too. Did a nice job. But hats off to Coach Williams on that one. Even though I will say he scared me to death on that 4th down or the last play of the game. God, that was scary. Oh my God. I was like, he's brought everybody. We're man.
To be completely honest here, I was watching TV and I was like, what the? I can't. This is a family show. I was like, what? And I can't see the way the camera. You only see the front 7 in the offensive line, right? So you couldn't see what the corners are doing or anything if they were really up and I was like, what is going on here? Like, what is he doing? But
I could. The tight end had just cleared Swearinger, and it looked like it was there from where I was, and I was like, my God. And I guess what I couldn't see is the ball was thrown back behind him, I guess. So the pressure did force the earlier throw, but they had a window. I might have come out and rushed 4 and then done that look where you put, 5 across with 2 safeties and you stack the 5 across so they don't know what coverage you're in. And then you could just drop into a zone with the 2 safeties, rush with 4, drop 7. I mean, you're defending 20 some odd yards in there. It just, to me, is with no help in the middle like that. And you bring everybody. But you know what? He's coaching in the NFL. He's getting paid to coach. I get paid to do a different job, so I'll shut up.
We'll go on to the Alex's play of the game. It's Briley's touchdown. Here's the video.
Goes the drives that they've had. Tamu up top. One-handed. It's caught. Was he in bounds? Yes. Touchdown for the defenders.
Love it.
So I kind of asked you a few questions from a coach's perspective.
Yeah.
But,
sure.
Last week. This week, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about as a player's perspective. How do you prepare for that? How do you prepare to catch that ball? How do you simulate that in practice, except just keep doing it over and over again? Like how do you simulate one hand catch scenarios like that? Or is that just pure athlete taking over?
A lot of God-given ability, pure athlete taking over. But I used to coach receivers up here at Lebanon Valley College. So again, on the wrong side of the ball for you, but you work a lot of hand drills and receiver drills that are part of the everyday. So we work a lot of bad ball drills, and just over time, hand positioning can be so important, strengthening the hands. You see guys warm up and you're tossing it and you're working on the one hand catch and tuck, and over this side catch and tuck, and then you'll send them across the middle and throw behind them, and you teach them to rip through with the arm and the other arm up. And, we used to do wet ball drills where the ball would get all wet and you throw it at them and it's wobbling. So, a lot of that's training within. That play was God-given. That was a hell of a catch. The hand strength, you think, to catch it, and he kind of tipped it back to himself and then to get his knee down. But, if you look at that play, so much happens on that play. You see the great catch and you go, holy cow. But if you watch that play closely again, you'll see he gives like a nice little arc release to the outside when he releases, and nobody touches him. So he's never knocked off his route at all. We caught him in man. So you'll see the guy, he does a little arc release and then goes up the sideline, and you'll see the strong safety, got him matched up on a strong safety. Strong safety comes over and has a good angle on him. And this is where that God-given talent comes in. He runs right by him. He runs right by the strong safety. It looks like two trains in the night passing. The corner was locked up on our outside receiver. He had taken him over. When he saw Teamu throw it to the corner, he dropped off his guy and tried to come over to help over the top. But Moore had him beat. He had beat the guy off the line of scrimmage and up the side. The one corner came over and tried to give help over the top. And that was just tremendous, tremendous catch. But, one thing with Houston, though, when you can't let Moore have a free release like that. So when he released, whoever was coming off, could have chipped him. Somebody could have gotten contact, but he gets a free release, gets wide, right up the rail, got the angle, and the strong safety couldn't hang with him. Tight end speed.
Teamu placed that ball perfectly. If he missed it like he did on the interception earlier in the game, just by a little bit, he's not catching that ball. He placed that ball perfectly, and I know that's more also putting the hand up in the exact perfect spot, but tip of the hat. That was straight from the UFL YouTube page. That was the #1 play of the week in the entire league. So
I didn't think he was going to get to that ball. I didn't. Great catch. Looked even better. I mean, it looked great in person. We needed it for sure.
All right. New episodes Tuesday at 9 a.m. and Wednesday at 2 p.m. So we tried the 3-episode thing. It didn't work out too great. You guys all forgot our second episode, and that was our favorite episode, my personal favorite episode. We're breaking down film and stuff and talking like real football. So we put the 2 episodes together. Wednesday will be our preview. This was our review show of the Roughnecks. You ready for the Renegades? Because we need some revenge.
We need some revenge. We owe them one. A lot to talk about. Go back to look at last year's game. That was last year, though.
All right, Alex. You got any parting words?
Yeah, I do. It's great to be 1-0 this week. Let's go last week. Let's go 1-0 this week. And until next time, so long, everybody.
Shields up, Webb and Alex out.